Hello everyone! So, apart from taking a week off to take part in a game jam, I've been very hard at work on Return to Sender, and the game's come a long way since the last log. My graphics artist, Metal Ogre, has provided me with new HUD elements, weapon sprites, and some vegetation for the map, so you'll notice the game looking a fair bit prettier. I've spent some time working on the arena, improving both the look and the layout. You'll notice there are some more textures now, so the garden feels more like a grassy garden with a path, and not whatever mud tile thing it was before. I've also expanded the house to include more rooms and a garage, which makes the arena have these 3 distinct lanes, with multiple entrances to each one, so it no longer feels like the only viable way to play is to stay in the big garden in the middle and barely ever leave. I've also added a load of props, mostly grass and flowers, to make the arena feel less flat. The arena has gone from a placeholder level to something I feel genuinely works now, and I'm no longer looking to replace it. What you're seeing here is officially the first arena in the game. I'm not saying I won't continue to work on it, but it feels good to play, and I no longer feel the need to tell every new tester, yeah, I know the level is crap, I'll replace it later. I've added 2 new weapons, the assault rifle and double-barreled shotgun, and placed the shops in the house, which gives you even more reasons to go there. You'll also notice the shops have prices visible. This was a lot harder to implement than I'd have liked. Godot doesn't seem to have any concept of text in 3D space, so I had to fiddle with multiple canvases and using canvas textures, which worked up until I placed them in their own scene, and then suddenly they couldn't find the reference to their canvas. It was a mess, but I eventually got it working. Let me know if you'd like me to go into more detail on this, and I can make a separate video, but I don't want to spend too much time on it here. By the way, just a quick reminder to subscribe if you're interested in seeing more, and haven't already. Like, comment and all that, because apparently I shouldn't be leaving this call to action stuff until the end of the video. All hail the mighty algorithm! I also added a new enemy. Now I'm trying to approach enemy design from a mechanics first perspective. What this means is that I want each enemy to do something different, and not just be the same enemy with bigger stats. So, I had the idea of an enemy that lobs a projectile that leaves an acid pool on the floor for a few seconds that will damage anything standing in it, to play a sort of area denial role. I designed this spitter enemy a long time ago. Its face is inspired by the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, and the rest of it is basically a cow, so it's called the Cowmagorgon. Expect a much nicer Cowmagorgon in the future when Mrs. Caesar works her magic. I wanted the acid pool to be easily visible, so I've added a particle effect which is supposed to look like acidic bubbles floating off the pool. The particles are not affected by shading, so if the pool lands in the dark, they'll still be very visible. Cowmagorgons are immune to acid, but other enemies are not, so their acid can actually be useful for holding back groups of meatballs and baddies. I've been wanting to add a kick to the game inspired by Duke Nukem 3D's Mighty Boot, so I did just that. This necessitated the creation of a knockback system, so weapons now have a flag that, when true, knocks back enemies. A knocked back enemy will take damage if it hits a wall or other enemy. It will also damage the other enemy, so with a bit of skill, kicking enemies into each other can be very satisfying. And it gets even better later, but we'll get into that in a bit. I also added the knockback effect to shotguns. Remember in the last log when I said I wasn't happy with using royalty-free music? Well, my friend Dune came to the rescue and provided me with this kick-ass music track. It's still a work in progress, but damn does it sound cool! And it gives Return to Sender its own distinct sound, so I am very excited about that. I find myself humming the start bit constantly while developing. You may have noticed by now that I also added a muzzle flash to all the guns. I just wanted to make shooting feel a little better, but it also works on enemies too. I might want to experiment with a darker level where you rely on muzzle flashes to see what you're doing later on. That would be pretty cool. Now, let's have a quick chat about sprinting. I do not want to slow the game down, so a stamina system was out of the question. But this meant that there was never any reason to not hold shift. And if there's no reason to ever not hold a button, then why is it even a button? So, I bumped up the default move speed to be slightly slower than the sprint, and removed sprinting. Instead, shift now causes you to dash in the direction you are currently moving. It's got a short cooldown so you can't just hold it, but it's low enough that you can use it to your heart's content. This feels way more satisfying and can be a great way to get out of a sticky situation. Now, remember a few seconds ago when I said the kick gets better? If you can time your kick so it hits while dashing, it doubles the power of the knockback, even launching the enemies into the air. It takes a bit of skill to do, as you do have to start the kick before sprinting, but it is very satisfying to pull off, making the kick a much more offensive tool. Finally, I added a single-player wave-based mode. While the multiplayer really is the intended way to play, I figured players might want a way to play the game on their own, especially considering the number of indie game YouTubers and Twitch streamers who only play single-player games, so this is sort of for them, but let's be honest here. Indie multiplayer games from no-name developers don't always have the largest player base, so I need something for you to play during those downtimes. The single-player mode disables all monster upgrade stations and increases the prices of all weapons. Then, enemies spawn in waves and wait for you to clear out the wave before spawning in the next one. Each wave has a very specific set of enemies, and once all waves have been completed, they loop back to the first, but enemies' health and damage is increased. And that's about it. If you want to try out the single player or have someone to play with over LAN, I've been keeping the itch.io version of the game up to date, and will links in the description below. Obviously, that version doesn't have the Steam matchmaking, so consider it a demo. It asks you to set your own price, but you can always click no thanks, take me to the downloads. But if you want to support the game and me financially, then feel free to toss in a few bucks in place of a Patreon, which I don't currently have. Please do wishlist the game on Steam if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!